We have here today Nora Claire Miller and Amy Linton. And Nora and Amy are two of the three creators of Egg Cream. And Egg Cream is this amazing Jewish short film, and it's really cool. Well, you'll get to see just a bit of it in a moment. But first, I want to tell you just a little bit about Nora and Amy and why they're so very special and why this project is so very special. So Amy works with Peter Miller, and they are filmmakers. Peter's, as I understand it, and correct me if I get anything wrong with these introductions, but Peter is the director, and Amy is the film editor and edits all their films, and they work as a team. Now, you might have noticed that I said Peter Miller, and Nora Claire Miller and Peter Miller have that same last name. What's really, really special about this film, especially for a book that was, well, we think this is definitely for all ages, and we know that adults will like it too, because to get mentored in creativity is amazing. But it's specifically also for that eight and up age group, 8 to 12. And Nora actually started this film project, Egg Cream, with her father when she was in that age group. Nora, was it eight years old?
I think I was maybe 10 or 11. I was just trying to figure this out the other day. I think maybe 10.
10 or 11. Well, it's amazing because when you look at the film, you see 10-year-old Nora. And when I first met her for the interview, I saw, because I had the pleasure of interviewing Peter, Nora, and Amy, and it felt like I already knew you, Nora, because you're in the film, and I felt like I knew your 11-year-old self. And but basically, they had this idea. Peter was a filmmaker, and Nora and Peter ended up making all this footage together. And then years later, as I understand it, years later, they looked back at the footage now that Nora is older than 11, and they ended up editing it together. Amy edited it, and they put it into this beautiful film that's been shown at Jewish film festivals all over the country. And right now, we're going to let you all, because we want for each creativity expert not just to talk to them, but to show you some of their creativity. So right now, we're about to show you the trailer for Egg Cream.
The origins of the egg cream are shrouded in mystery. No one really knows why there's no egg and there's no cream in an egg cream.
So how do you make an egg cream anyway?
You want? I'll show you how.
Egg creams have a certain sadness to them. What people found in the egg cream in the tenement districts of New York City was a kind of short, blissful moment of relief from the heat, and it was also a kind of relief from hunger for richness.
I think of Rebbe's grocery store, and he had a run-down, decrepit fountain. I think he used the same glass for everybody.
A guy who had a place across the street from my apartment building, his name was Yankel, and he made a terrific egg cream. He'd have one sleeve always rolled up, and he never spoke. And that's my memory of egg creams.
You take that little moment of drinking the egg cream, which you sort of treasure for the rest of the day, because that's the only moment where you really have something good in your life.
Of course, we're having egg cream.
Best egg creams I've ever had in my life. They're so good.
She raised it up and she said, "White fire on black fire." At that moment, they drank the very first egg cream in the history of the world.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm really glad. And guys, the film is amazing. And then to find a film, Nora, that had an 11-year-old protagonist, and they started shooting, ended the film at Nora's bat mitzvah. So, I mean, you got to see the whole thing. It's amazing. I'm just going to ask you just a couple questions right now, because we're so honored to have you here today and that you're a part of the book. And the first question I'm going to ask is for Nora. What was it like making a film with your father?
That's a good question. Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Brianna and Barbara and everyone who made this happen. And I'm so excited to hear from all of the other contributors to the book that are here. It was really an interesting thing. I remember the first time we talked, my dad and I had been talking about collaboratively making a film for a little while, because I had said, I want to learn how this whole filmmaking thing works. Can you show me? And he said, sure. And I said, well, how do you make a film? And he said, well, you have to start with a question. And that wasn't new to me because I was in Hebrew school at the time. And it was a Hebrew school based around storytelling. And a lot of it was about asking questions. We'd ask a question at the beginning of our session, and we'd sort of talk about how the Torah answers it or how the different stories answer it. And so I thought, okay, a question. And I looked for a question, and weeks went by, and one day we were sitting at the kitchen table drinking egg creams. And for the first time I said, why is it called that anyway? There's no egg, there's no cream. It's like chocolate milk with seltzer. Why is it called an egg cream? And my dad said, that is a very good question. And so we decided that it would be the subject of our film. And it was really this incredible experience. I'd watched my dad make films growing up, but I had never had a part in it, really. Sometimes I helped him hold his boom mic if he was doing an interview at our house, but it was this really special experience where we both sort of got to explore this question that really neither of us knew the answer to. And in the process, we got to talk to my dad's dad, my grandpa, who was featured in the trailer, and really to explore New York City, where I grew up, and to think like, well, what's the history of egg creams here? So it was a great way to connect with my dad, to connect with my grandpa, to connect with my city, and to connect with my Jewish heritage.
That's amazing. And guys, learning all the Jewish connections and learning for me about Nora's amazing Hebrew school teacher, because I know that I'm sure there are Hebrew school teachers out there, and I'm a Hebrew school teacher, and Jerry, and he was amazing in that focus on questions. And Nora, I'm going to ask you one more quick question, then I want to ask Amy something about the editing. But could you just tell them about your vest, because I loved what you shared with me about your vest, and I know that might not be something you noticed, but now I will always notice Nora's vest when I watch this film.
Yeah, so when we started shooting the film, I was 10 or 11, and I had this dark green puffy vest that I wore over a sweatshirt, and it was like my favorite thing because it reminded me of that movie Back to the Future, where he wears the orange puffy vest. Everyone thinks it's a life jacket. I wore that thing everywhere. I loved it. When we started the film, it fit me perfectly. And we wanted, for continuity's sake, at first, for me to be wearing the vest on every shoot, which was great at first, but then I started to grow. And by the end of it, the vest hardly fit me. And it was an interesting thing to make a movie that grows up with you, and to watch yourself changing over the course of the film. And even when I watch it now, I think it's interesting to see my hair go through many iterations, and I don't know. Yeah, I think it's funny that vest was the constant, the vest and the egg cream, as everything changed around those two things.
Thank you. And I actually, before I ask Amy your question, I just want to tell everybody that Nora shared with us an amazing recipe for egg cream that is in the book. And she's actually going to even agreed to make us a video of how she makes egg cream. And she has very particular ideas about how to make an egg cream, what chocolate syrup you use, what exactly how you tilt it, exactly the spoon. So her word for word instructions are in the book. And we want you to think of that as a little refreshment for today, because we wish it wasn't a Zoom party. We wish it was a live party, and we could give you all an egg cream. So enjoy your egg cream. And Amy, I wanted to ask you, because you put it all together and you have all this raw footage, and it's amazing to see. This footage was shot over many years, and then documentary footage, so much. So what is the process like? And I know you've done other Jewish films as well, but what was it like to put Egg Cream or these other films together?
Well, when we started out, we were shooting on these little tiny cassettes, which are totally passé now. So technology has changed so much since we started it. So when we decided to kind of reboot it, we sort of had to, bring it into the digital world. And it was sort of like a whole new process. But went through the, all of the footage, and, Peter roughed out sort of a storyline, and then, just sort of let me have at it. So.
That's amazing. And it's so exciting. And I loved how we have all these quotes in the book, and Peter was so sorry you couldn't be here today, but he shared that, filmmaking is much more about telling a story than about all the, putting that story together. And especially now in the age when getting access to a cell phone or an iPad, and it's just very exciting that kids can start doing their own filmmaking and put together their own Jewish films. So thank you both so much. This was a pleasure. And we're now gonna go on and share another exciting expert. This was amazing. Oh, and there's the egg cream recipe has been shared now nicely in there. So if you'd like access to Nora's beautiful egg cream recipe, because it's really good. It's really, really delicious. So thank you.
Yay.